Good afternoon and welcome. My name is Dan Montoya, and I'm a Senior Research Officer in the Parliamentary Research Service. And today I'm going to be taking you through our latest data brief on unemployment and job seeker data in New South Wales electorates. I live and work on the lands of the Dharawal people, and I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands upon which we are all located, and pay my respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging, and any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people here today. So the Parliamentary Research Service, we provide confidential research services for all members, and we publish research papers for the Parliament. And this includes publishing data for New South Wales electorates on topics such as unemployment. And other recently published data available for New South Wales electorates includes socioeconomic disadvantage, public and private school numbers, and NAPLAN results. And I'll show you where you can find all of this data later in the briefing. So I'm going to begin this briefing by outlining the key reason we've published unemployment and job seeker data in the same data brief. I'll then go on to describe unemployment and job seeker data in a bit more detail and how they relate to each other before showing you how to navigate the data brief. Please feel free to add any questions you might have to the chat, and I'll answer them when we get to the Q&A at the end. Many people who are not counted as being unemployed by the Australian Bureau of Statistics, the ABS, are nonetheless eligible to receive unemployment benefits in the form of the job seeker payment or youth allowance. So this data brief therefore presents both unemployment and job seeker data together to provide more insight into unemployment in each electorate. Unemployment and job seeker data come from two quite different sources. So the ABS conducts a labour force survey every month, and this survey only covers 0.32% of the Australian population. The primary purpose of the survey is to provide labour force estimates for the nation and secondarily for the states and territories. Therefore, due to the small sample size, unemployment rate data for the electorates should be used with caution because it's indicative of what the situation might be in an electorate rather than being a precise measure. In contrast, the Department of Social Services publishes an exact count of all job seeker recipients every month. The data they publish is not available for electorates, so the Research Service converts this data into estimates for every electorate. The ABS uses a standard international definition for unemployment that does not include people we might otherwise consider to be unemployed. I'll give some examples in a few slides' time of these types of people, but first we'll look at the labour force framework used by the ABS. So this framework divides all people aged 15 and over into three groups. To be counted as unemployed, a person must not have been employed during the week they were surveyed, they had to have looked for work in the last 4 weeks, and they must have been available to start work immediately. The ABS considers a person to be employed if they worked at least 1 paid hour in the survey week. Now, unemployed and employed people together make up what is known as the labour force. And so the third group of people are those who are not in the labour force. And these include a range of people such as retirees, full-time students, stay-at-home parents, and people who are unable to work. The unemployment rate is equal to the number of unemployed people divided by the labour force. Unemployed people not counted under this definition, therefore, include people who haven't looked for work for 4 weeks. So perhaps they were sick or on holiday, had carer responsibilities, or didn't have transport. It also doesn't count those people described as discouraged workers. So those are people who believe they cannot find a job, having looked for one for a long time. There are two unemployment benefits available to unemployed people that we have collectively called JobSeeker for simplicity. These are the JobSeeker payment and youth allowance. Youth allowance is for people aged 16 to 21, and the JobSeeker payment is for people aged 22 to 64. Both of these payments are available to people who are looking for work, or who are sick or injured and temporarily unable to do their normal work or study. And recipients must also meet residence rules and income and assets tests. We calculate the job seeker rate as being equal to the total number of JobSeeker payment and youth allowance recipients divided by the population aged 15 to 64. So in summary so far, the unemployment and JobSeeker rates measure different facets of unemployment in an electorate. The unemployment rate is about people who are actively involved in the labour market, and the JobSeeker rate is a measure of the number of people receiving unemployment benefits. And the overlap between these two people is far smaller than you might think. In 2019, the Commonwealth Parliamentary Library analysed an ABS survey to identify the overlap. The number of unemployed and job seekers in Australia at the time was quite similar, so at 680,000 and 611,000 respectively. Of all the people defined as unemployed, only 28% were receiving unemployment benefits. And of the people receiving unemployment benefits, only 31% were counted as being unemployed by the ABS. Thinking back to the three main groups in the labour force framework, with 31% of job seekers being defined as unemployed, the remaining 69% were either employed or not in the labour force. And I'll give you a few examples of people who would not be found in the overlap between these two groups. So first, a person who only worked a few hours a week would be counted as employed by the ABS and yet could still be eligible for unemployment benefits. Or you could have a job seeker recipient who might be exempt from having to look for work for health reasons, and so would be counted as not being in the labour force by the ABS. There are also a few reasons why someone who's unemployed may not be eligible for unemployment benefits, such as they might have a partner who earns too much money, or they might own their own home. I'm now going to show you how to find this data brief and all our electorate data. Okay, hopefully you can see the website now. So from the Parliament's website, if you click on research papers, it takes you to a spot where you can find all of our research papers and data briefs under the All Research heading. To find the electorate data, we go to electorates, and we have grouped the data by topic. So we've got population, housing, economy, education, social, and health. And under economy, we have unemployment and job seeker. Now, this data brief has been designed to let you do two things primarily. One is to see all the data for one electorate in the one place, and the other is to compare electorates across the unemployment and job seeker data. And there are four tools in the data brief that let you do this. So first up, we have a dashboard, and you can search for your electorate with this drop-down filter. So I'm going to show you quickly two electorates which, as of September 2024, had the largest differences between their job seeker and unemployment rates. So we'll start with Barwon, which is a relatively disadvantaged electorate in northwest New South Wales. In September 2024, you can see it had an unemployment rate of 3.5%, below the New South Wales rate of 3.8%. And over time, its unemployment rate has fluctuated around the New South Wales rate. In contrast, Barwon has the highest job seeker rate in the state at 12.2%, compared to the New South Wales rate of 4.9%. And that's been pretty steady over time. There's a couple of reasons why this might be the case. It could be that a large proportion of unemployed people in the Barwon electorate do meet their income and asset tests so that they can get job seeker benefits. Or it could be that a lot of those recipients are either employed for only a few hours but can't get enough work, or they might not have to look for work for health or other reasons. We find that the opposite picture in Maroubra, where the unemployment rate has been trending up recently. So it was 6.2% in September last year. In contrast, it has consistently had a job seeker rate below the New South Wales average and quite a bit below at 3.1%. And so one reason why this might be the case is that a significant proportion of the unemployed population in Maroubra might not meet the income and asset tests for job seeker benefits. So they might own their own home, or they might have a partner who's earning too much. The second tool is a set of interactive maps, one for unemployment data and one for job seeker data. And this lets you compare the data between electorates and look at any regional trends. So if we zoom into Sydney, for example, you can see in Western and Southwestern Sydney is where you get some of the highest concentrations of, or highest unemployment rates anyway. And the situation's a little different if you look at job seeker data. So here, the highest job seeker rates are generally found in North and Northwestern New South Wales, as well as in the same Sydney electorates of Mount Druitt, Fairfield, Cabramatta, and Liverpool. The third tool we have is a set of interactive tables, again, one each for unemployment and job seeker data. With this table, you can click on any of the column headings and it rearranges the data for you. So for example, if you click on the unemployment rate, you can see which electorates have the highest unemployment rates or had back in September last year. You can use this box here to search for your electorate. So I live in the Miranda electorate. So this is showing me that in September last year, there were an estimated 1,393 unemployed people. The unemployment rate was 2.9%, which is a rise of 0.8 percentage points from September 2023. So in September 2023, the unemployment rate was 2.1. And the regional rate was 3.6%. So we've grouped all electorates into regions across New South Wales. And in this case, the region is Southern Sydney. So you can search for your region and see how Miranda, in this case, compares with other electorates around it. And you can see there's a regional rate, 3.6%, and some of the electorates have much higher unemployment rates than Miranda, which is about in the middle. And the last tool that we have in the data brief is a spreadsheet where you can download all of the data. And this includes both job seeker payment and youth allowance data separately. And the youth allowance data is the only way you could look at youth unemployment in detail if that's something you're interested in. It's the only place you can find that sort of information other than the censuses, which happen every 5 years. Okay. So does anyone have any questions? And please feel free to turn on your mic or to ask a question or to pop it in the chat. And I'll stop sharing so I can check the chat. Okay, great. No questions. Well, thank you for joining us. It would be great if you could fill in the feedback survey. I'll share my screen again in a moment so you can see the QR code and the link. So if you have a spare moment, that would be great. Please feel free to get in touch if you have any questions about the data brief or any other data we have for electorates or any other research questions you might have. So thanks again, and I hope you all have a great afternoon.
Thank you. Bye.